The case of Lochner versus New York is a case that begins during the Progressive era when our government started to try to look out for the workers. Many of them were new immigrants that were coming from overseas. And we realized that we needed to make conditions safer. There were lots of diseases in the city because there was no trash pickup, so they began to have trash pickups. There were also lots of factories that were taking advantage of workers, so we needed to make jobs safer. This was one of the laws passed by the state of New York that said bakers could only work 60 hours a week. The reason, if you're in a bakery and you're working late hours, you might fall asleep, and with the hot materials, you might burn the building down. Many buildings had apartment complexes on top of them, and lots of people could die. So this law was meant to protect the people's right to life, to keep people alive. However, bakers didn't like that because they needed to work as many hours as possible to make money. One of those bakers was Lochner. He sued and said this was a violation of his right to property. So this case was a citizen's right to property versus a state's right to protect life. It went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled that the law was unconstitutional, that the state of New York could not try to protect its people because it was taking away the workers' right to earn money and buy things. This just shows that in a Supreme Court case, when all things are equal, the Supreme Court will usually rule in favor of the citizens' rights if their rights are being violated. This was also an example of how the Supreme Court can rule that a state law is unconstitutional if it's going against the U.S. Constitution. That shows the Supremacy Clause, among other things.